Alright guys, I want your attention in 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Let's continue with our lesson. So I just want to remind you guys that the purpose of this lesson is to be able to develop simple plans in a written and oral conversation by giving directions in the imperfect tense. Alright, so we just went over new vocabulary and the imperfect tense, how to conjugate, root ending verbs, and so forth. So we also did, by the way, T-charts together in class. We modeled. I did one for you guys, and then we went over it together after you went on your own and did the last 3. So just a reminder that our verbs that we did was regresar, pasar, preguntar, and esperar. Those were our models to understand the new root endings. So now I want you to stop and I want you to listen to me really well. So this is what I want you all to do. I'm going to give you some questions. I want you to think about them in less than 30 seconds. Once you think about them, I want you to raise your hand. Once you raise your hand, I want you to tell me the answer. Okay? So I'm going to give you first the opportunity to volunteer, okay? After you volunteer, if there's no volunteers actually, if there's no volunteers, then you're going to volunteer. How about that? Okay? Let's start. So, these are the 4 verbs that we went over. Again, regresar, pasar, preguntar, and esperar. What do they all have in common? Okay? Okay, so what are the definition of these verbs in English? I see. All right. In your own words, what characteristics identify whether they're regular or irregular verbs? Who can define in their own words the purpose of the imperfect tense? What are the components that are required for an infinitive verb to have when conjugated into the imperfect tense? How would you create a sentence using the word regresar in the imperfect tense? Now, before we move on to the next activity, I want you to remember that today we practice learning the conjugating endings for the imperfect tense. Here's another question I have for you guys. So, what would you do to devise a way to facilitate for yourself and others in your class how to learn the imperfect tense endings for AR, ER, and IR verbs? What is the significance of using the imperfect tense for the next activities or lessons? Good. So you all did a good job answering the questions both individually and as a group. Now that we've covered this practice, let's continue with the next portion. I want you to all get into groups of 2.